again, my little yarnivores, spiderettes, and arachnids. Fiber Spider back again with another tutorial just for you. Now, it has been quite some time since I did a knitting tutorial, so I thought, what better time than the present? So today, I have got a really easy and awesome stitch for you. It is the double stockinette stitch. And I've never done this before until now, and I absolutely love it because, well, I love the really clean surface of the stockinette. However, if you're doing a scarf, it always curls. There are tricks and means of trying to prevent that from happening, but this is the perfect solution. The double stockinette stitch has the stockinette texture on both sides. Yes, absolutely love this. And it is really quite simple with just a one row repeat. Yep. And I think this is probably going to be one of my go-to stitches for scarves in the future. Now, for this particular piece, I used Lion Brand's Mandala watercolors. Never used this before until now. It's actually quite nice. It's not a yarn that I have used before, and it's not one that I would typically use because it's more of a roving yarn than a yarn with multiple plies twisted together, but I rather like it. So this is, for those of you that don't know, it's 164 yards. It is an interesting blend of acrylic, wool, and nylon. It is a weight of 5, and the colorway is Icy Grape. Now, this video is not sponsored, but I always like to let you know what it is that I use in case if you want to duplicate the results. Also, I'm currently still working on my first skein of yarn, and I'm using size 11 knitting needles, which is an 8. That is 8. Yes, an 8mm knitting needle. These are my Chiaogus. I really, really do love these needles. And so I've been working this piece up. The best part is that not only is it double-sided and it's really easy, but it has a really nice and squishy texture. Very, very nice. And it is double thick because technically speaking, you are creating 2 layers of fabric, as you're doing your rows. It's so simple. I love it. Now, for today's piece, going to be using some Lion Brand's Pound of Love. I think this is the pink sea salt, the pink salt, I think. I'm not 100% sure, but I think that this is what it is at any rate. And going to be using my Chiaogus once again. These are a size 10.5. I'm trying to read the numbers. 10.5, which is a 6.5mm needle. You can, of course, use whatever works best for you. And yeah, so without further ado, let's get started. Okay, so first things first, we are going to be doing our cast on. I did a little bit of experimentation with different cast on methods. The short tail, I'm really not that much of a huge fan of. The knitted cast on, I really do love. However, I found that the cleanest edge for the cast on, this is again personal experience, the cleanest cast on would be the long tail cast on. And because I want this to be relatively loose, I'm going to be doing the double needle long tail cast on. Something I haven't done before on the channel, but, well, first time for everything, right? So, holding both of your needles together. By the way, these are my circulars. So going to hold both together and do my slip knot. And we're going to do a swatch today of about, I want to say 12 stitches. You need an even number of stitches for this particular stitch. So got our slip knot on there, and let's do 11 more for our total of 12. And whenever doing a new stitch, I totally recommend doing a swatch first so that you can see how many stitches per inch you will need for your project. Also, of course, to see if you groove on the stitch, if you really like it, and if it's going to be worth investing that much time in a project. Always good to swatch first. Do I always do it myself? No, but it's good to do. So let's do our 12. So I've got 2, 4, 6, 8. Whoa. Okay, 9, 10, 11, and 12. All right. And the reason why I'm doing the double needle cast on is, I have a tendency of having a bit of a death grip when doing my casting on. So I figure let's do this for a change. So I've got 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12. All right. And then pull out one of my needles. Get myself situated around my tripod here. There we go. And being sure not to work with my tail, but to work with my actual working yarn, we will start in with row 1. All right, so let's begin with row 1, which is actually the repeat for the entire project, which makes this really quite simple. Going to start off with a knit stitch. And then bring the yarn to the front, and then slip as if to purl. Bring the yarn to the back, and then knit the next stitch. Yarn to the front, slip as if to purl, yarn to the back, knit the next stitch, yarn to the front, slip as if to purl, yarn to the back, knit the next stitch. Yarn to the front, slip as if to purl, yarn to the back, and knit the next stitch. It's really as easy as that. Yarn to the front, slip as if to purl, yarn to the back, and knit the next stitch. Yarn to the front, and that last stitch, slip as if to purl. Now, when I say slip as if to purl, it's because you're going in through the front. If you were slipping as if to knit, you would be going the other way. No, you want to slip as if to purl off, and there you go. And that is row 1. And so, whoa, excuse me, pardon me. See, I've got my cable going around my tripod here, so bear with me. All right, so, and then the next row, we're going to do the exact same thing. All right, so let's do a couple of rows together, shall we? Okay, so for the next row, now that we have ourselves a little bit more situated, when you see these bumps, okay, it's a great sort of, identifier. When you see those bumps, those are the stitches that you're going to be slipping. When you don't see the bump, that's the one that you knit. So starting off, no bump. So we're going to knit that first stitch. And then yarn to the front. We got a bump, so slip that as if to purl. Yarn to the back and knit that next stitch. Yarn to the front, slip as if to purl. Yarn to the back, knit the next stitch. Yarn to the front, slip as if to purl. Yarn to the back, and knit. Yarn to the front, slip as if to purl. Yarn to the back, and knit. Yarn to the front, slip as if to purl. Yarn to the back, and knit. Yarn to the front, and slip as if to purl. Okay, let's do another row. Just have to deal with my tripod here. It's the only problem with doing knitting videos for me, quite frankly, is my tripod setup. But we do what we can, right? Right. And again, being careful not to work with my tail, but work with my actual working yarn. I've done it plenty of times myself, so I do stress that importance to you. So let's do another row together, shall we? All right, so knit that first stitch. Then yarn to the front, slip as if to purl, yarn to the back, knit the next one, yarn to the front, slip as if to purl, yarn to the back, knit the next one, yarn to the front, slip as if to purl, yarn to the back, and knit. Yarn to the front, slip as if to purl, yarn to the back, and knit. Yarn to the front, and slip. Yarn to the back, and knit. Yarn to the front, and slip. Okay, let's do another one. I think it's pretty easy and self-explanatory, but if you guys have been watching me for any length of time, you know that I like to be thorough. I like spending time with you guys, and figure why not, right? So let's do one more row together, and then I will show you the bind off. So going to knit the first stitch, yarn to the front, slip as if to purl, yarn to the back, knit that next stitch, yarn to the front, slip as if to purl, yarn to the back, and knit. Yarn to the front, slip as if to purl, yarn to the back, and knit. Yarn to the front, slip as if to purl, yarn to the back, and knit. Yarn to the front, slip as if to purl, yarn to the back, knit, and yarn to the front, and slip as if to purl. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to do a couple of rows off camera to give myself a little bit more of a substantial swatch, and then I'm going to show you how to do your bind off. All right, I'll see you in a bit. Alrighty, so now for the bind off. Now, I did a little experimenting as well on the bind off, and typically I really like the super stretchy bind off. However, I really didn't think that it did this particular stitch justice. However, there is a way to bind off in pattern with this particular stitch. So it's very similar to, a standard bind off with a slight twist. And no, you're not twisting your stitches. You'll see what I mean. All right, so first things first, knit off the first stitch because it's a knit stitch. So knit that first stitch. And then the next stitch is a slip stitch, right? So we're going to slip that stitch onto our right needle and then pass the first stitch over the second stitch. There we go. And the next stitch is a knit stitch, so knit that stitch onto your right needle. And then pass the first over the second. And the next stitch is a slip stitch, so slip that onto the right needle. And then slip the first over the second. There we go, just trying to be careful. And then the next one's a knit stitch, so knit that one. And then pass that second one over the first, or first over the second. It depends on if you're going left to right or right to left, but passing that one over. And then the next one's a slip, because we've got that bump, so slip that over. And then pass the stitch over. There we go. And then knit the next one. And then pass that stitch over. And then slipping the next one because it has the bump, and then pass the stitch over, knit the next one, and pass over, slip the next one, and then pass. Also, I would strongly recommend practicing this first with a swatch before doing this on your finished piece. Okay, I can't stress that enough because I right now, the binding off always makes me nervous, and I can only imagine what it must do for you. So, going to knit that next stitch because you put all that time and effort into it, and you don't want to mess it up, right? Okay, and then pass that over and off, and then slipping the last one, and then passing that stitch up, over, and off. Almost there. Okay, and then we have this one left. Now, that is actually the end. However, there's a slight problem, and that is that this loop, you can't extend this out any further. So, that being said, what we're going to do is we're going to sort of doctor, fiddle, and finagle this last loop, all right? Because since we had slip stitches and so forth, yeah, this, you can't pull this out without distorting your other stitches. So, I'm going to show you what to do. Alrighty, so I got my scissors handy here just to cut myself free. And then going to thread my needle there. All right, so now if you look at the stitches, see, this is tightening that up, and that's fine. So what I think would be the best course of action is to go from here through that loop, okay? That way it's not going anywhere. And then we're going to sort of tack this loop down. We're going to anchor it down so that it is less obvious. Now, of course, there are 1,000,001 ways in which you can do this. I just try to make it look a little bit neat and to secure it all in one. So I'm going to go through both of these loops here. Okay, and then as for this loop, going to sort of fold it down, go through these next 2 stitches down below, and go through that loop as well. Now, is this the definitive way of doing it? No, this is something that I'm just sort of doing on the fly. And then going to go in above and through the loop again. Again, just sort of trying to tack it down, anchor it, so that it blends in with the rest of the edge. And I think that that looks actually pretty workable. Absolutely love it. And yes, again, I would strongly, strongly suggest doing a swatch first, especially where the bind off is concerned, so that, you can practice the technique, but not on your finished product. And there you go, the double stockinette stitch. I really, really love this. I can see utilizing this stitch in a lot of future projects of mine, and I hope you liked it too. And if you did, if you liked this video, please give a little thumbs up button down below because you know that I appreciate your appreciation. Yep. And stay tuned for more because I do try to post often, whether it's crocheting or knitting, audiobook narration, some cooking, video games on my other YouTube channel, Fiber Spider Games. Would love to see you there too. And until next time, you know what to do, right? I want all of you to stay inspired, stay caffeinated, stay stitching, and please stay safe. Take care of yourselves and each other, and I will see you in my next video. Bye for now, everybody, and have a great day.